This is the 4-4 to 4-7 review. Calculators are not allowed, and it's number 1. Our goal is to find the limits. So our first line of defense, anytime we're computing a limit, is to plug the number in to see what happens. So if we look at A and we plug in x equals 0, we will get a 1 over a negative 1 plus a 1, which is a 0 on top and a 0 on bottom. Because of that, this is a candidate for L'Hopital's, and I'm going to take the derivative of the top and the derivative of the bottom. Now, prior to doing that, I'm going to rewrite this 1 over x minus 1 as an x minus 1 to the negative 1, because it'll make it easier for me to take the derivative. So now again, this is a 0 over 0, so by applying L'Hopital's, I can get the derivative of the top over the derivative of the bottom, and then compute the limit again. That will give me a 0 minus 1, that's a negative 1, to the negative 2, that's going to be a 1 over a negative 1 squared, so that's just a 1, times a negative 1 gives me a negative 1 over 1. If we look at B, again we plug in 1, that'll give me a square root of 4, which is a 2 minus 2. I get a 0 on the top and a 0 on the bottom. So again, I'm able to apply L'Hopital's rule because I have an indeterminate form. That means I can take the derivative of the top over the derivative of the bottom, and then compute the limit again. Oops, sorry, that should be a 1. So if I plug in a 1, that's a 4 to the negative 1/2. That's the same as a 1 over the square root of 4. So if I multiply this out, I get a 1/2 times a 1/2 all over a negative 1 gives me a negative 1/4. Lastly, part C. Again, if I plug in my 2, I'll get an e to the 4 minus an e to the 4. That's a 0 on top, and a 2 minus a 2 gives me a 0 on the bottom. So again, indeterminate form of 0 over 0, which means L'Hopital's is appropriate. And where people mess up on this one is they do not take the derivative of e to the 4th correctly. Remember, e is a constant raised to a number. That's still going to be a constant. So the derivative of e to the 2x, we do that chain rule, but the derivative of that will be a 0. So now if I plug in my limit, I'll get e to the 4 times a 2.